One historical quick revision here, based on a couple of conversations I had over the weekend before we delivered this speech. And that is that sometime between the time we graduated and today, in some Hobart and William Smith publications, and I think George Wolster and I were talking about this the other day, our class and our 4 years were described as a troubling time. And just on a serious note for a moment, I would say this, that 40 years later, the bonds and friendships here were forged not just out of the proximity of being together for 4 years, but they were forged together because there was a tremendous press during those times and those circumstances for authenticity among these classmates and these friends. And there was a care for each other, for these colleges, for our society, and for our nation, and for the world that was expressed to each other, through our time together at these colleges. And it was a transformative period for each of us and for these colleges. And it continues today, and we're so delighted. I mean, I'm just so honored that Maureen becomes the first female chairman of the board. You know, I was 21, sitting on the steps of Medbury with my roommate Elliot, trying to figure out what the hell I was going to say. How do you sum up this incredible period of events and tumultuousness? And the themes that ran through my mind in those times were, what we tried to do was not sleepwalk through these years, and not let this nation sleepwalk through that period. And that the idea was to be conscious. And we all studied consciousness here. We had professors who taught us about consciousness. And we discussed consciousness together, making conscious decisions and intentional decisions, and trying to figure out, in a world and in a nation that seemed completely upside down, how do you live a responsible and moral life? And I think most of us still pursue those today in all the endeavors that we've done. So, these are the words that were spoken that day, written a long time ago, and this is exactly what was said to your parents and to your assembled classmates, faculty. When I was told that I would be making this address, I began searching my academic background for the perfect metaphor, the culminating abstraction through which I could describe the class of 1972. I could find none. It was faced with this problem that I found myself the other morning at 5 a.m. sitting on the steps of Medbury Hall, watching the sunrise. I sat there dejected, thinking that for God's sake, after 4 years of everything from St. Augustine to Buddha, from Jimi Hendrix to William Blake, from Abbie Hoffman to Tommy the Traveler, I should be able to come up with something. And it was at that precise moment that I received a sign from the heavens. A blackbird flying overhead dropped his metabolic bomb, which splattered on my right foot. And I instantly recognized a learning experience. And that took place on those steps outside Elliot's in my room, right there. For the next few minutes, I watched numerous birds dive bomb and play and land on the roof of Cox Hall, and I recalled other buildings on which we had seen birds rest: the Pentagon, the White House, the Rochester Hall of Justice. There was poetry in that moment, and I jotted down these few words. Man can build no institution, no symbol, no monument to himself that is too mighty for birds to perch on. And if there had been one word I wish I had the courage to write, I would have changed the word perch. I was 21. And I was wearing a tie, as I recall. I think that these words have meaning for many individuals in the graduating class, and for many of us who begun to struggle against institutions which force one to compromise life or which compel one to compromise someone else's life. The essential fact that we've come to understand here is that people are the institutions, and that people must control the institutions rather than the institutions controlling the people. Particularly here at Hobart and William Smith, the understanding is important, for the significant questions asked here are those that go beyond the classification or role-playing of an administrator or a faculty member or a student. They are the questions that confront one as a living, breathing, sensitive human being. What living in such a small community for 4 years allows one to do is to see and live with people beyond their roles, to understand the strengths and the weaknesses and the insecurities and the hopes which are found in all of us. One's education should be a process by which one examines these facets in himself or herself and learns to relate sensitively to them and others. Part of the process is to discover one's own individuality. And I think it's appropriate here to say that if there's anything that can be said on behalf of the class of 1972, it is that we are individuals. We have all experienced differently. We have all seen through our own eyes. However, the one thing we have shared in common is our time. It is our unique place in time and the perspective that it allows us that makes this class special. Living at Hobart and William Smith is a strange journey. One cannot even say time passes without being questioned by a cynical laugh or a passing frisbee temporarily floating in eternity. Plato, Einstein, Shakespeare, and Buddha live here. So do Clapton, Joplin, Dylan, and Hendrix. Selves die here. People are born. Time is measured by events, not minutes. Split seconds are lived for years. Universes are found in capsules, and the poetic moment found in a blade of grass. There are thousands of side trips for one to travel, doors of perception to open, heavens and hells to experience, lives and deaths to live. But the ever-present fact is that we exist here, on this planet, at these colleges, at this time. What we are doing here, no one really knows. Be it through acid tripping or academia tripping, we are all trying to understand. Hobart and William Smith are many things. Above all, they are the people who live here. The experience is personal. It is friends who together have traveled through insights and delights and who share the sadness of moving on. And it is also friends who recognize the limitations of our time and the struggle together to live it honestly. It's once again time for the ultimate summarizing abstraction, the culminating generalization to sum things up. I have none. Instead, I look to my friends, all of you, people I couldn't even imagine 4 years ago, people I have since shared eons with, people I have traveled light years with, people I have come to love deeply. It is to you, my friends, that I suggest that the substance of time past lies in the belief that it was real. And there are things to remind us how real we believed it to be. Woodstock, Altamont, Kent State, Washington, Tommy the Traveler, Bob Dylan, the Grateful Dead, the Days of Rage, and so on. Hundreds of people, hundreds of things that moved us. But as Jerry Jeff Walker said, we are forever moving on, and so we are. It's my hope that many of us will continue to say no to the death machine and to fight to maintain our creativity. And in conclusion, I'd like to pass on a piece of wisdom that was told to me by a bus driving friend of mine named Sausalito Doc. And he told me that it was wisdom of the road, wisdom of the many miles he had traveled. And what Doc said to me then, and I would say to you now, is this: no matter where you are, no matter where you go, if you come to an intersection where it looks like life and death meet, and there's no way out, and you're moving fast, close your eyes, grab the cosmic stick shift, stomp her to the floor, and push on through. Yeah.